Welcome back to Metal of Honor. I'm Yidna. This is quite a short video for me, just basically just making a Celtic ring. It's not a project that takes a long time to make, and if you made a couple of these, or by the time you've made a couple of these, making sort of multiples or in different sizes, different gauge wires, will just become second nature, and you can really sort of mix up what you're doing, and it's just a fast way of producing quite simple rings. So we're just going to jump straight in. I'm starting off with, you see this measures out at like 1.75mm round wire, and it's about 110mm long, so 11 centimeters. That you see what we do with this. So obviously it's going to get sort of knotted up, so it's going to become shorter, but it's still enough to make a good size ring. I'd actually got this metal was like 1.8mm stock wire, but where there's sort of different tolerances at the factory of how they produce the wire, it can vary a little bit, so that's why it's a little bit under. The widest part on these round nose pliers it's about 6.5mm, or almost getting up to 7mm, and you can see just normal holding it still, wrapping it around. As soon as I've got that first curve, it's a case of just tweaking and twiddling so you get that sort of curve, so it kind of looks like this. It's more a case of however it ends up, as long as you do the second one, as I'm doing now, as long as that kind of looks like pretty much the same, you're good to go. Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of tweaking. You'll find it easier doing a curve sort of going back on itself and then curving this bit around the pliers, so that you've already got that sort of like second and third curve of the wire already there before you roll it. But for me, just showing you like this, it's a nice, simple, easy way. And see this one, it looks good enough for actually going in to each other as it is, but like I said, it's good to have them looking as close as possible in a sort of like the curvature of the shape of the wire. So this one you see like just normal flat nose snipes or parallels or whatever you've got. You could even use those same round nose pliers like the giant ones, just for giving them more a little tweak. Just giving them a little tweak, really. That's all it is to it, and just make them look very similar. So then holding it on the widest part of your triblet, like a lot of this, you see how white my fingernail goes for how much I'm putting pressure on that. Just so you're doing both the same, then you literally like lay them down and slide them, and they'll just slot straight into each other. Very neat, very tidy. Then it's a case of like sort of pulling them as hard as possible, just so you can try and get them stabilised a little bit. And as soon as you pull them apart, you see there on like the curve bits, I sort of push them bits up, and like one bit up, one bit down, just to try and really get it nice and tight in. And then you can see here I've got pliers on the end to like really sort of like grip it and sort of pull it apart, or say pulling it apart. It looks like I'm pulling it apart, but really you're pulling it together. So kind of contradicting myself there, but you can see the maneuvers. You can see like the actions on my hands and what I've done and why I've done it. So when you're at this point and you want to, you could leave it as it is and make do like that, or like you see there, I've kind of just pulled them a little bit tighter together. There's so many different ways of doing these. It's that sort of simple job. But yeah, they're just, I find, especially like for when you're learning and beginning, if you see some of the other projects that I've done, so yeah, if you're new to the channel, please have a look at all the other different projects I've done. I think I'm not far off of having like 100 videos on the channel, and that's probably like 98% tutorials. But please do like and subscribe and have a look at previous videos. There might be a tutorial that really sort of get you out of trouble. So there might be one that's very similar to something you've had to make. But so yeah, I throw myself with what I was gonna say then. It'll come back to me. But yeah, so like when you've got that close together, you're going to pull those outer wires down. And like even these, you could bend these however you want. It's that sort of quite forgiving sort of project. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so like all the other, like some of the other previous tutorials, like quite in depth. You see that even they've sort of gone on for like an hour's worth of video, or sometimes a bit more, or two-parters. Whereas like you find when there's simple little videos, so this one's just doing a little tweak in the middle, just pulling those inner bits together, just to get a bit more of a curve, get a bit more sort of bubbly looking. But yeah, you find when it's like a nice, simple, easy project to do, something that you can get the hang of, you don't waste like a whole day making it. You get pretty good results very quickly. Like for your confidence, it will just boost your confidence, like 100% without a doubt. You'll just feel so much better, especially if you've had a few projects go wrong, a few little, yeah, it's just a confidence thing, and just like willing to give it a go. And of course, a lot of the things, do it in silver because you're not wasting as much money. Even though like at this time, sort of, what we're in March 25, and it'll be the same the world over. Like silver prices gone through the roof. Obviously, not as much as sort of grand price as gold. But if you're only ever using silver, like for me, I think silver's quite cheap until you want to do a massive sort of project. But yeah, if you only use silver and noticed how much the silver price has gone up recently, it's kind of insane compared to what it used to be. Okay, yeah, so you've seen that these sort of like the end of like a sort of cartoon dog bone sort of shape. So these, you could do it as tight or as loose as you fancy. There's no real sort of set rules for what you've got to do on this. You see, and that stock wire as well, I haven't sort of done any annealing on this or anything like that yet at all. So here you can see the rough layout. I do tweak this some more on that before I get to the stage of actually soldering it. But for where you've got, I don't know how to describe the bit, but like when I eventually get my thumb out of the way, when you see like the four little sort of little slits that all sort of join in, it wasn't until I was sort of buffing the ring up and polishing at the end, I'd realised that one of them was too close, and I'd actually soldered it. Because like even here, you can see all this would have taken if I'd have noticed it. So it's that little gap closest to what you're looking at on the screen now. If I'd have just got like a broken drill bit, like sort of a pin, or even just like a dressmaker's pin, or my scriber, something pointy, I could just poke that in there and made that gap bigger. But I actually just soldered because I was sort of concentrating on doing the video and getting solder on there and everything else. Because like in a second you'll see like I'll drop this bit of solder and you'll see that it's a case of like not panicking, not turning everything off. It's just keeping calm and just moving and tweaking and just with like your solder probe. Because like it's not like one of these jobs where like, I lay the solder on. It's where I sort of put it on the end of the pick and I sort of fly it on. But so yeah, so that way I was sort of concentrating on just keeping that in the video, just showing how much of a pain some things can be. I miss like completely, like it just went unnoticed completely until I was buffing up the ring at the end. But it's like I've said on so many of my videos before, if I'm going to make a mistake, which is rare, I'm going to keep it in. So to go back, I've said how much of an easy project this is, but that slight little thing now, in theory, I've messed this up. So for me, this isn't a ring that I would sell at the end of this, because it's got that little mistake in it. Also, when running the solder as well, you see, as always, solder one side, heat on the other, so the solder always runs, liquid solder or liquid metal always runs towards the heat. So it's on this bit is where I wish I'd noticed that the two little mini gaps on the right are fine. They're just bubbled up with flux at the minute. But because the other one was on the other side and already had the flux, by the time I put the solder on the other side, I hadn't seen that there was no gap there. But you see, like, the end result still looks good. And so basically, if you make this and you do like a tiny little mistake, like what I done, like if I was making this in gold, I'd gradually warm it and unsolder it. But unsoldering pieces of jewellery, that's another level completely. I won't be doing a video on that just yet, because people will try unsoldering stuff and they'll melt their work. I'll get the blame. So I'm not even encouraging that at the minute, but it's something that can be done if you're really careful. So yeah, so it's that little round hole that's just to the left of the screen now. It's actually blocked up. So yeah, so if you end up doing something like this, you do what I did and just give it to the missus. So currently my wife has got this. The day I made it, and I realised I just took it home and just sort of just passed it to her. That was it. But yeah, so you see I did sort of roughly tap it flat. That's just to get it that little bit flatter for before I curve it around the triblet. Triblet is the tapered steel bar that you bang the rings on and shape and stuff, just in case anyone's unsure, or in case there's any people that aren't jewellers that are watching just because they like watching things being made. So at this stage, you can see I'm just like this, just doing my fingers, and it's a case of just really forcing it, bending it down. At this stage, I could put it in like what you've seen me use before, like the strip bending sort of gadget that goes in the vise, or I've got the pliers that match as well, that you sort of squeeze it, like made of that sort of aircraft aluminium or aluminum, depending where you're watching from. I know a few people out there say it a bit weird, or probably even more think I'm saying it weird. But yeah, because those aluminium ones, pliers with like the little knuckle in that you can squeeze, that's like the cheapest option of like doing ring bending pliers. So that I could have put in here. You see, I'm just using half round pliers for this job, just to mix things up a little bit. And because it was a quick job, I was trying to record it in a sort of like a shorter amount of time as possible without moving the camera over to the other bench where the vise is and all that sort of stuff. So this is basically just, and you see me just sort of snip it. So it's a case of now of just keep curving it piece by piece, because it's not a continuous flat surface on the sort of the Celtic, sort of like the knot part of it. This is all going to go out of shape a little bit, but by the time you've soldered it and you've hammered it around the triblet, everything sort of comes back into a line, sort of aligns itself again. You see there's sort of a bit of flux on like normal. Yeah, so if you get to a stage where you solder in the middle knot, instead of having one corner, if you like, sort of touching and kind of ruined a little bit, just before you solder, or solder the outsides, but before you solder that middle bit, put something sharp in there, and that will just sort of just open it up, because that's all that this would have needed. So the sooner you can realise your mistakes and stuff, you can just stop and just call it game over and start again. There you go. And I think I might have said other times as well, like as most of you know, like the flux that you use for soldering, that goes like glass, and that's the reason jewellers sort of put the work in, like the acid in the pickle, and that's the only bit I don't put in the videos. My pickle's nowhere near a good light source or anything for recording. But most of you that will be doing these projects will know exactly what I mean when I say I chuck it in the pickle tank or the pickle pot, acid tank, acid pot, whatever you tend to use. So on the sides of this, where I've soldered, it looks like it hasn't soldered all the way through, but that's just like an angle on the camera or for where the light source is. So it looks like there's a crack and the solder hasn't gone through. But I promise you that is soldered. It's just the angle and the light and all that sort of very boring stuff. Yeah, going back to what I said, if there's anyone watching or people that have watched a few of my videos that aren't jewellers, that are just watching because they like seeing how things are made, but please sort of put something in the comments somewhere, just saying, yeah, I'm not a jeweller, but I generally like watching things being made. But it would just be interesting to see what sort of things people do. I'm just generally quite a nosy person, or like a little bit of gossip, you know. Yeah, so and you'll see me using these sort of sanding discs. Another strange thing as well, like, over the years I've seen a lot of people work, and people from so many other different countries. I've not seen anyone in England make anything for what I'm about to say, but these little spinning discs, I only ever use them on the inside of a curve. But the amount of times I've seen people sort of doing the spinner and sort of going on the outside of a ring, and I think, well, I just don't see the point in it. It's just so much riskier when you could just have a buff stick like what I'm using on this side for this piece on the outside of something. I just find it so much easier and makes so much more sense just to use that on the outside of the actual ring, like after you use the file if you need to, and any of them sort of bits. But yeah, but I've always found it quite strange when I sort of see people cleaning up the outsides of castings with a spinning disc and kind of doing the opposite curve to what you're actually sanding. But yeah, when a buff stick like this does it so quick. Yeah, so while I'm doing all this boring bit and a little bit of buffing, two of the next videos, one of them is going to be the flush setting, which I know just generally like quite a few people are always curious about, and just quite often like to know how to do that. But also been another video with how to make the tools for doing the pushers that push down the metal to secure that sort of invisible set or gypsy set type ring. There's quite a nasty sort of like trail of scratch marks in this. With a Celtic ring, you could leave it a little bit rustic if you wanted, but there was a couple of marks that I didn't like, that I wanted to sort of take out. But again, just I know it might look sort of the opposite of what you want to do, and almost like the opposite of what I said before, where sort of people using like a round spinner on the inside curve of stuff, then using that on like an opposite shape. Obviously there I did use a flat buff stick going over a round wire when I want to keep it quite round. But when it comes to the final polish, you know, so I only went slightly. You see, I'm oxidizing this. If you've watched the channel loads of times, it's quite often I do really like the patina of like an oxidized sort of item, especially like the silver like this. So when it comes to polishing this, any of like the flatness I might have put on with that buff stick previously, by the time I start using the polishing mop, that's gonna round off all those edges again. But yeah, but as you can see, it's quite a simple ring to make. If you've never made one before, I would give it a go. 100% worth having a little play with something like this. And that same very first knot that I done, the two first curves that I laid down that slotted into each other that you pull, you might notice that from a chain as well. I might end up making a matching chain at some stage, but there's loads of other different chains I'd also like to do videos of. But yeah, any questions on this one, please put down in the comments. Same as usual, I think there's still comments over the last couple of weeks that I haven't replied to, which I'll get to today. This video will probably go on tomorrow night probably, which will be like Friday-ish. I did want to do the commentary for this sooner, but the people in the next room along, or like the next sort of business, been renovated. I don't know if it's someone new moving in over the back of me, but it's just been noisy as, you know. So I've just had to wait for a bit of peace and quiet. But yeah, so you could even put this in a barreling machine to get the little ball bearings in there. If you wanted to sort of take it the extra step past this, you could, oh yes, I'm just tweaking this a little bit as well with the round nose pliers, if you just want to bring little bits more in line together. But yeah, you could get like the polishing thread that you can buy from most suppliers, just sort of get in there and floss it. Be like flossing your teeth. But yeah, like I say, any questions, please put below. Please like, subscribe, watch all the other videos, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thank you, take care.